Number one is establish or set the no boundary. That is, there is a sign on your life that says no, and you put that sign in strategic places. Now, everybody knows this about narcissists. They are control freaks. They tell everybody what to eat, where to eat, when to eat. They will tell you, well, they tell you what to think and how to think it. They will tell you what movie to watch on Netflix. They will tell you where to go and when to go there. They're in control. They're in charge. They know better than you and everybody else, and they see themselves as entitled to do that because, well, they like to think of themselves as superior, even though deep down inside we know that they're not. So we have to establish boundaries that say, no, think of your life as having a fence around it, like a house with a fence around it. And on the fence, on the gate, is a sign that says, no entry. Do not come in. The narcissist will try to come in anyhow, but you got to keep that door locked. Narcissists won't knock on your no door. They will pound on it. They will try to kick it in, but you have to make sure this is a door, this is a sign that cannot be penetrated. You cannot cross this boundary. So you have to establish those boundaries. And we're going to do another video on which boundaries to establish and where to put the no sign. Number two is this. Once you establish the boundaries, and we just touched on this a bit, but once you establish those boundaries and put up your no sign, there is no negotiation. So number two is make sure those are no negotiable boundaries. You have no negotiable boundaries whatsoever. And it means no. When you put up a no sign, it doesn't say, let's negotiate. It says no, period. So don't negotiate with them. Number three is don't respond to their abuse. Now let's say that you are dealing with a narcissist that is abusing you in some way, maybe taking advantage of you, taking advantage of your money, your time, whatever. There comes a point in time where you just have to back off and not, if you possibly can, don't even talk to them. Go gray rock. Ultimately, that's what you want to do anyhow, but you just want to ghost them. As long as they are abusing you. Now, if they're physically abusing you, you want to do more than stay away from them. This is just my opinion. You do what you want. But if somebody is physically abusing you, I'd call the cops. Narcissists have this way that they front themselves, they present themselves as being undefeatable. You just can't deal with them. You can't reach them. I guarantee you call the cops on them, they're going to know that you mean business. Now, they're going to fight you back, obviously. They're not going to put up with that. But I'd rather deal with that than have to deal with their physical abuse. But number three is don't respond to abuse. Number four is something very similar, and that's this. Don't take their bait, because narcissists love to fight. So they will try to entice you, bait you into fighting. Now, fighting, again, sometimes may be physical, but usually it's just verbal. They love to argue because in arguing, well, number one, they're good at it because they have lots and lots of practice. They argue with everybody, every opportunity they can, they argue with them. They love to argue because they love to feel in control. Now, by virtue of the fact that a narcissist has lured you into an argument, enticed you into an argument, he or she feels in control. They made you do something that you wouldn't be doing otherwise, arguing. So how do you deal with that? Well, rather than defend yourself and rather than throw barbs, return the barbs, once again, just go silent, go quiet. They don't know what to do with that. They have no idea how to do with it. And you will see them. Sometimes you can even tell it in their faces. They're frustrated. They get a little huffy. How dare you not respond to them? They're in control. They're in charge. They're the boss of the world, of the planet. They're the king of the universe. And as their subject, you are obligated to reply to them. Don't argue with them. Just sit back and watch them. Watch them fume. But they will get the point eventually. Number five is don't fear, because a narcissist is very adept at being able to read people's faces, their expressions, and their body language. It's almost like they have a sixth sense. They can tell when you are afraid. And if they can make you fear and tremble, that encourages them so much. Again, it's like enticing you into arguing. They did it. Now they're in control. If they can make you afraid of them, they can sense it and they feel like, hey, I'm controlling this guy, this woman. I made her fear me. The other day I was walking. I take a walk every day, maybe 2.5 miles. And as I was walking, there was this like a bulldog pit bull that got loose from the owner's house. And he came after me while I was walking. And one thing I've learned, I walk a lot. So one thing I learned about dogs is the thing to do is don't run from them because they'll chase you. Turn around and stare them down. Sometimes you even walk toward them and they will back off. So when this particular dog came after me and his owner was in the front yard yelling at him, which I have no idea why the owner didn't just come get him, which would have been the decent thing to do. But anyhow, so there I was on a country road and had this dog that chased me down. I just stopped. And I turned around and faced him. And I carry a cane with me. I call it my critter stick for just such emergencies. And I just pointed it at him so he'd back off. But as I was staring at this dog eye to eye, I had no fear whatsoever. I just a little frustrated, but I didn't fear him. And the dog, he continued to bark, for a second and growl and snarl, what dogs do, but not for very long. Finally, he got kind of quiet. Then you'd see him calm down. Then he turned his head back to one side, kind of looking back at the owner. And eventually, he just turned around and ran away because he sensed there was no fear. He sensed no fear. So when you're dealing with a narcissist, you want to make sure, because they're like pit bulls, They love to sense fear, and they chase after it. And if you run from a narcissist, which is not quite the same as going gray rock, they will chase after you. So just stop, stare them down, sometimes physically. Sometimes literally, you just have to stop and stare at them. See what they do. See how long you can stare at them. And sometimes they will get frustrated and walk away, but usually they'll stare back at you. See how long it takes. You can stand there for an hour if you want to, stare them down. May not always be possible to do that if you're busy doing something else, but at least for a moment, give them a good stare in the face. Give them a dirty look. Let them know, hey, get back in your place. And your place is not ruining my life. Your place is not controlling me in any manner whatsoever. Now, number 6 is kind of interesting, and I actually learned this from someone else, but they said when you're dealing with a narcissist, talking with a narcissist, call them by name. So, I don't know, say their name is John or Betty, just call them, look, John, look, Betty, whatever their name is. Why would you do that? Well, there's a good reason for it, because it puts a humanness to the situation. Narcissists like to look at people not as humans, but as puppets. They're inanimate objects that are to be controlled. They attach strings to you, psychological strings to you, and they pull your strings. Believe me, they will pull your strings. They love to pull strings. But a puppet doesn't, on its own volition, turn around and say, look, John, knock it off. And when you do that, the narcissist will be taken back. Now, keep in mind, the narcissist will always, in my experience, and I'm pushing 70 years old, and I've been experiencing narcissists all my life. When I was a kid, teenager, young adult, I had narcissists that I had to contend with. Now, most of the time, I didn't even know they were narcissists until I thought about it later, but there have been a couple occasions where I have had serious problems with people that I came to learn were narcissists. Psychopathic narcissist, dark triad narcissist. So I've learned a thing or two over the years, and I want to share with you some of those things I've learned. And one thing I've learned is call the narcissist by name when you're talking to him and or her, and look at the response. How dare you be human? I want to deal with a puppet. You're like Pinocchio. You're coming alive. How dare you do that? Number 7 is, I love this one because it is so effective. But number 7 is answer with questions. Ask questions whenever you are replying to a narcissist. Why is that? It's because, are you listening? Because this is really important. The person who asks questions controls the conversation. You want to test it out? Next time you're talking to somebody, just for the fun of it, just ask them politely 1 or 2 questions. You're in control. You get in a debate with somebody on social media, I don't like to do that. I usually just ignore them, but instead of arguing with them, answering their questions or their accusations, just type in a question. Think of some way to respond with a question. It's amazing how powerful that is. Once again, ask questions when replying because the person who asks questions controls the conversation. Number 8 is a little bit more difficult to explain, but I think you're a smart person, so you could probably figure this one out. But number 8, don't give them a pass. By that I mean, don't assume, once you figure out this person is a narcissist, don't ever presume or assume that they are telling the truth. Presume or assume they're lying, because that's what narcissists do the best. Now, if you don't know someone is a narcissist, you may be a little suspicious. You may be looking and wondering. You may be looking for those telltale signs, those traits of narcissism, which we did a video on that you want to watch. But if you know it's a narcissist, don't assume they're telling the truth. Assume that they're not telling the truth. Don't give them a pass, because as soon as you trust them, you're giving them permission to trample all over you. You're not there to be trampled on. You didn't come into this life with the word doormat stamped on your forehead or the word welcome tattooed on you somewhere so you can be somebody's doormat. You're not to stomp on people, nor are you to allow them to stomp on you. And we all know that. So why would you allow a narcissist to do it to you? Totally crazy. So what we do is we don't give them a pass. Sorry, there's a no sign on my fence, and I'm not your doormat. You're not welcome here. Not by any means whatsoever. Number 9 is call them out. And once again, we talked about questions before, answer with questions. When you call someone out, don't make accusations. When you're dealing with a narcissist, don't accuse him or her of doing this, or why did you do this, or why did you mishandle the money? You got to frame it as a question. Yeah, you use the word why. You don't say just that you did this and you did that, but make them answer. If you just throw an accusation at them, they don't know. Typically, what they'll do is they'll just throw an accusation back at you. But if you frame it as a question, and by and large, you want to argue even talking to them, but if you must, then frame it as a question, not as an accusation. But you do need to call them out. Don't let them know they're getting away with it. Eventually, and again, these people love to fight, but eventually they're going to figure out that they misjudged your character because they thought you were an empath. They thought you were somebody that they could easily take advantage of. You were low-hanging fruit. You were the wounded gazelle that they could easily prey on. Now they're finding out, that wounded gazelle wasn't as wounded as I thought it was, and come to think of it, that's not even a gazelle, that's a roaring lion. And this is not somebody to mess with. They'll get the message, and it's not going to be easy. Never have I seen a narcissist just up and walk away, because it hurts their pride, hurts their ego, and that's what they're all about. Finally, number 10. Interrupt them when they hedge. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, the best way to explain it is a police negotiation. They got a bad guy, suspect, in the negotiation room. Not a negotiation room, but interrogation room. They're asking this guy questions. Now they understand that this guy is almost certainly the suspect. This guy actually committed the murder, or he or she committed the theft, the fraud, whatever. And now they get in their face, and they start getting tough with them, and they make straightforward allegations or implications that you did commit this crime. They'll just come clean with us and tell us how you did it. And the suspect will almost inevitably deny it. And you'll notice what the police do in the interrogation room. They will immediately interrupt them. As soon as they hear a denial coming out of that person's mouth, they will immediately interrupt them. They have a lot of different ways they do that, but they won't let them get away with saying their denial without stopping them dead in their tracks. So that is one way that you can put a narcissist in their place. When they start to hedge, when they start to say, when they delve into denial, start talking immediately. That's a good place to start asking questions. Don't let them get more than 2 or 3 words out of their mouth. The first red flag that you are probably being targeted by a narcissist is this person that you suspect of being a narcissist is just a little bit too warm and fuzzy. By that I mean this person is coming on very friendly. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that this person is a narcissist, but we understand that narcissists are very good at masking. They're very good at pretending to be somebody that they are not because they are trying to fool you. As I often say, this is what I call the used car salesman syndrome. A used car salesman, a little bit different. They have so many seconds, I mean like a minute or two, to make a good impression on you, to suck you in so they can sell you a car. The narcissist, on the other hand, he has months or even years to put on this act, to put on his used car salesman act. So he or she can take a very, very long time, literally sometimes years. So be careful if somebody seems to be, a little bit too friendly. You know how the average person is to you, and some of them are friendly because, a little overly friendly because they're just friendly people. Some people genuinely like you, and so they're going to come across as a little bit more friendly than others. The narcissist, rather, understands that, and so he mimics these people. How do you tell the difference between a narcissist and somebody who is genuinely kind or somebody who honestly likes you? Well, that takes us to the other 10 points. Number 2 is the narcissist tends to have a hidden past. Now, we know that because narcissists are always narcissists. I mean, once they're born a narcissist. Now, there are some exceptions to that. I believe that some people have this innate narcissism that they are born with, but it's not expressed until later in life, usually because of abuse when they're children. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't think I am, but narcissism rather, is innate. It's something that is genetic. You're born with it, or you're born not with it. Well, everybody is born with a little bit of narcissism because it's healthy. We want to take care of ourselves. Need to stand up for ourselves. The problem with a narcissist is he goes way overboard. She goes way overboard. Number 2 is they tend to have a hidden past because they have always been narcissists. They've always been this way. You're not their only victim. You're not their first victim. So if you are a little bit suspicious, you might want to do a little bit of background checking and find out if this person even has a criminal history. And if they don't, you've lost nothing. If you check public records and type in the guy's name and, there's nothing there, good. Chances are he or she is not as bad as you thought they possibly could be. But some of the narcissists in my life, I find that, and bankruptcy is not a sign of narcissism because a lot of people file bankruptcy, but that's almost guaranteed that if you have a covert narcissist in your life, it's almost certain that at some point in the past they have filed bankruptcy because they are entitled. They don't pay their bills. Even if they have the money, they don't pay their bills. A lot of them. So those are some of the things you look for in their past. Have they been arrested multiple times, maybe for check deception? Have they been sued multiple times? Okay, this kind, friendly person may not be as kind and friendly as you thought they were. Number 3 is that they have no contrition, or no true contrition, I should say. There is a difference. Again, they're masters at manipulation. They can fool people. They can make you think they're truly sorry, but they keep reoffending, and that's the difference. Putting on the act of being sorry of contrition is not the same as true contrition, and true contrition is you don't repeat the offense over and over and over again. So if you have a person who's been sued multiple times and always has a good story why they were not at fault, but they've been sued multiple times, chances are that is a person who may be a narcissist, because even though they seem to be sorry or seem to have an excuse, more likely that very well could be a narcissist. That's a pretty good red flag. Number 4, pathological liar. People who are narcissists don't quite understand why they should tell the truth, other than it's a means of manipulating people. But they have no moral grounding for being honest. Now, they sometimes fake honesty, but they're just lying. So they are pathological liars. They lie about lying. They lie about being honest. Now, everybody makes mistakes. Everyone has done something dishonest at some point in time. We all break rules. We all break laws. You can't drive a mile in your car without breaking some kind of a law, I don't think. But we all do that. But we're talking about somebody here who is pathological. By pathological, we mean it's just part of them. It's not something they do at the spur of the moment by decision, but it's something that they do by nature. That's just what they are. Number 5 is they have this sense of a super self. So we explain this by saying watch out for the proverbial wolf in sheep's clothing. That very well may be a narcissist. How do they do this? Well, I know narcissists who present themselves as being deeply religious. There was one famed narcissist who presented himself as being a war hero, and he had these great stories. How he was in the Korean War, and he won all these medals, and one of the medals he even wore. He liked to wear his medal, even though it was totally fake. There is another narcissist I read about who was a criminal, but he said he had a past with the FBI, that he was a former FBI agent, undercover type, you know. Well, it turns out that, in a sense, he kind of did, but because of his criminal activity, the FBI recruited him to help them catch other criminals. But he lied by omission. He left out a lot of that. He just said he was an FBI agent. Technically, he wasn't, but he did work with the FBI. So he took that little ounce of truth, and he embellished it extremely. And people tend to be believers, you know. Whatever we hear, we tend to believe it. Faith comes by hearing. So we hear things, and we believe all kinds of nonsense. And when somebody tells us something like that, we just pretty much take them at face value. So they have this super self-projection, and that's part of being a pathological liar. Well, I guess all of this is part of being a pathological liar. And number 6 is masking. Everyone wears a persona mask because there's one way you behave at home when you're all by yourself, and there's another way that you behave when you're out in public. At least I hope so, because if you're extremely polite when you're at home by yourself, there's probably something wrong with you. But most of us, when we go out in public, we have this sense of courtesy. protocol that we try to behave a little bit considerate of other people. Not everybody does that, but I think people who are mentally healthy, yeah, we have this sense of courtesy. Well, the narcissist will wear his mask. He takes it a step further. He wants to hide who he really is. It's not just being courteous when he's out and about, but it's a matter of totally distorting your perception and his or her self-perception of who they are. That's kind of a throwback to what we talked about earlier, where somebody would pretend to be religious or pretend to be a war hero or, an FBI agent, but that's part of masking. Number 7 is they have a flawless presentation because this is akin to masking, but people with narcissism don't like to admit that they have flaws. So when they're putting on their mask and they're putting on their little stage play for the world to see, the world is their audience and they're putting on the stage, very proud of the fact that they are fooling people, and they do. They're really good at acting. They fool a lot of people. But you might notice that their presentation of themselves is a little bit too flawless. You know that guy that had the war stories about being a hero in the Korean War? His story never includes any mistakes that he had made when he was serving in the military. Flawless presentation. How do you know the difference between a real plant and a fake plastic plant? Well, the guy who makes the fake plastic plants, fake flowers, he typically makes them without any flaws. There's no little brown spot or no little hole where the bug ate through it. They're just perfect. And when you see somebody who comes across as perfect, chances are that's a plastic person. That's a fake person. That's like a plastic plant, fake plant. Number 8 is they are manipulators, but, they like to hide their manipulation. But these people see themselves as being very savvy. They like to see themselves as somebody who's got their act together, and they are what we call players. They know how to play other people, and they are, really good at it, and they know they're good at it. But in time, you'll start to see, hey, this person is manipulating people. Maybe you won't see it. But if you do see that manipulation in somebody, you might consider, hey, this, I think, is a narcissist. Number 9 is the narcissist loves failure. Now, he or she will never admit that they are failures because in their minds, they're not. They're flawless. They never fail. Even when they fail, it's not a failure. They did it on purpose. They could trip and fall and say, it's somebody else's fault. I know a narcissist who would do that, trip and fall over something. And she would actually sue whoever owned the property. Did that a few times. Usually it was a retail. Maybe she did it on purpose. I don't know. But, that they love everyone else's failure. If you know somebody who is coming to you constantly and telling you about somebody else's flaws and their failures and something they did that backfired, they may even be making it up. And a lot of times they do. They just flat out lie about it. But if somebody actually does do something, make a mistake, have a financial failure, have a car accident, have a sickness, which is really not a failure but still a problem, they love that. And they talk about it. And they want to point out the flaws in everybody else. Now, what is important here is you got to keep in mind that if they are finding those flaws in other people and telling everybody about it, they're doing the same thing to you. Every flaw they see in you, real or imagined, and yeah, they're good at making up flaws. They will spread those all around. Guaranteed they're talking about you behind your back. It's called a smear campaign, by the way. Number 10 is the only time they do anything for other people is when they do it for a manipulative purpose. Sometimes they can be very kind, they can be very considerate, they can try to help people out, but there's always an ulterior motive for doing that. But by and large, they don't do anything for other people. unless they are manipulating. Number 11, we touched on this one earlier, is they slander others. Again, the smear campaign. This is one of the hallmarks of a covert narcissist, is that smear campaign. They recruit what most people call flying monkeys. I prefer to call them agents. They are narcissists by proxy. For some reason, I don't like the term flying monkeys, but everybody knows what that means, so I use it. But that's one of their hallmarks, is they will slander you behind their back and other people, as we mentioned before. But they will also recruit other people to make that slander go viral. That is their way of controlling. Because the one thing that narcissist is obsessed with is protecting his or her ego by controlling everybody else. They are the king or queen of the universe. Another thing is they're good at hiding their vibes. One mistake I hear people make often is they say they've got bad vibes about somebody, or somebody just gives off bad vibes. If it's a narcissist, chances are you're not picking up those bad vibes. Those are false signals. Because the narcissist, one thing they're really good at, and they understand this. I mean, they've been a narcissist their whole life. They got a lot of practice. And they typically don't send off those bad vibes. If you're getting a bad vibe from somebody, it may be very real, but it's probably not because they're a narcissist. They may just be a strange person, or they may be a crook, but maybe not necessarily a narcissistic crook. And that is one of the key differences between your average crook and your narcissist, is the narcissist is good at hiding it. They're good at hiding their vibes. So if they give off bad vibes, you're not going to be able to tell it. Number 13 is this. They are critical and they are negative. Now, they may be friendly, but you won't hear these people praising other people. You won't be hear them, well, maybe they're immediate family. They love to brag about their family because their family is their family. And of course, being themselves narcissists, they are better than everyone else, so it just follows that their family's better than everyone else. Think of them as having a holy family. Now, their family may disagree with them. That doesn't matter. This is my son, this is my daughter, and this is my family. They're just perfect. So put them at the front every time. But they tend to be critical and negative of people other than their immediate family. So if you're around somebody that they're always finding that flaw, it's kind of like smear campaign, not quite the same. But they're always noticing that somebody has something about them, that the way they put on their coat, the way they comb their hair, the way they touch their face or wipe their nose, they just see a flaw in just about everything. That is a red flag. You may be dealing with a narcissist because they are critical and they tend to be negative. Now, they'll try to come across as being a very positive, upbeat person, but that's a mask. You can tell they're negative people by the things that they say from the abundance of the heart. Number 14 is they have a sense of entitlement. They feel entitled. They feel like the world owes them just about everything. That is one of the reasons you'll find a lot of narcissists, not all of them, but a lot of narcissists are constantly moving. They don't pay the rent because, you're not entitled to it. They are. I mean, I know people who actually do this, spend their whole lives. I know a guy who's pressing 70. And his entire life, he's just moved from one place to the other. Had a really good job for a while. Didn't pay his bills because no one else is entitled to his money but him. So he'd get sued over and over again, kind of like we talked about before. But they have this sense of entitlement that the world owes them food, the world owes them shelter, the world owes them income. Now, that person may not be a narcissist. There could be some other difficulty that a person is going through, but if you see that their whole life, there's got to be a reason. Let's stop and think about narcissists as people who have a ravaging appetite. They're just starving all the time. They got to have something to eat. And it's not a physical hunger, it's an ego hunger. They need to satiate their ego, and no matter how much they satiate their ego, they're never satisfied. They never feel full. And so what they do is they look for supply, a food supply for their egos. And they're looking for the most vulnerable people they can find. It's kind of like a lion who is hunting gazelle. It looks for the young or the injured, the weak gazelle. That's the one that the lion attacks because that's the low-hanging fruit. That's the easy prey. And you, my friend, if you are being attacked by a narcissist or have been in the past, guess what? You are the prey. You are the low-hanging fruit. You are that wounded gazelle that we've talked about so much in other videos. All right, so you're dealing with this narcissist, and how do you turn the tables on these people? This narcissist that is in your life. I saw a fun video not too long ago about lions who were attacking a young water buffalo, and you just felt sorry for the prey, but then something happened. The herd of buffaloes, water buffaloes, turned, saw what was happening, and attacked the lion. Turned the tables, and the lion ran off, had to go eat something else somewhere else. That, in effect, is what we can do to the narcissist in your life if we know how to do it. And here's how it's done. According to my experience, I'm nearly 70 years old. And over the decades, I've seen a thing or two. I've experienced a thing or two, and I just want to share with you some of these things that I have learned that's worked for me, and hey, I think they just may work for you. So I've got some ideas, and number one is just ignore your narcissist totally. Now, everything we talk about is going to kind of hinge on this, so pay close attention, but what we do is you need to think of the narcissist in your life, if possible, as being invisible. And I know that's not always possible, particularly if you're married to this person, or if it's a member of your family, or if it's somebody at work and you can't just quit your job. But when it is possible, this narcissist that has made your life so miserable, the guy, the woman who love-bombed you, and you thought this was the greatest person in the world. This is my friend, this is my buddy, or this is the love of my life, or whatever it was. Then you found out that that was just a charade. The person was just kind of acting out so they could draw you in. They were setting up a web. That is love bombing. That is grooming. And you fell for it. And the reason you fell for it, again, is because you were the low-hanging fruit. They saw something in you. They said, this person is vulnerable. I'm going to go after this person because they were hungry. They need to feed that ego. They're starving. I mean, all the time they're starving, and then they're not going to quit until you make them quit, until you turn the tables on them. So the thing to do is just, hey, they're invisible. If you see them out and about in public, ignore them, just like they're not even there. The reason this works is because the narcissist needs to control you. Now I think this is kind of a cool analogy. Think of somebody who is a cattle rancher or a chicken farmer. I was going to say chicken rancher, but I don't think that's proper. They're keeping food to eat. Yeah, they have steak, they have eggs, they eat chicken. The farmer does, and his family. And that's what the narcissist is doing to you. You're their cattle. You're their chicken. Somebody, when they get hungry, they come out and have a bite. You're their garden. You're the fruit that's growing in your garden. They own you. They control you. No, they don't. Not anymore, because guess what? You are gone. When you ignore them, you're taking away the reins. Instead of you being in the boundaries of a fence, if you're a cow or a chicken, they got you in the chicken coop, or they got you out in the field, fenced in. No, now you're putting up the boundaries, and you're keeping out the narcissist, the farmer. Sorry, I'm not a cow. I'm not a chicken. You're not a farmer. You're just a jerk. You're somebody who has a serious problem, and going forward, you're just invisible. Number two is feel no obligation. No obligation whatsoever, because one of the tricks, and you know this, one of the tricks the narcissist uses is he or she wants you to feel obligated to him or her. Now, sometimes you actually are obligated, but not because the narcissist is somehow superior or greater than you, but because maybe you're married to him. So you do have some obligations, or maybe you share children with them, or maybe they are your children or your parents. So there are some obligations there. Maybe somebody you work for. You have obligations, but it's got nothing to do with their narcissism. It's just the circumstance, the situation that you're in. That's not related. If the person wasn't a narcissist, you would still have that connection. So you should have no feeling of any obligation whatsoever to lend them emotional or moral support. You are not their chicken, you are not their cow, you are not their food supply, you are not there to feed their ego. If it is an employer, a boss, you're there to work, get your job done. They're not paying you to let this person abuse you. It's not your job. I can't think of any job on earth where the job is to be abused. Well, I can't think of any legal jobs that are like that. Number three is this, and I think this is one that I have found very helpful, and that is invalidate their stories. Now, we've all heard the saying that there's two sides to every story, and that's the way that it is. Side number one is truth. Side number two is not truth, untruth, lie, make up, make believe, the act. What I'm interested is in the truth. What is the truth? That's a problem because the narcissist is very good at lying, and you know that. You've experienced it. I don't know why people believe their lies, but they do. I mean, a lot of people believe their lies. I was reading the other day about a serial killer. I'm trying to think of his name. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But he told the story of how when he was a little boy, speaking of chickens, they had chickens that they raised on their property. I think it was like a farm. And he loved those chickens, and they became his pets, and he named the chickens. And one day, his mean mother killed one of the chickens and cooked it for dinner and made him eat it, and that so traumatized him that he became a serial killer. Why do we believe that? I mean, the guy's a serial killer. Why would we believe that story? You know, he told the story of how his mom would make him sleep in the basement to keep him away from his sisters. And we say, oh, that mother was so mean. She didn't have to make him sleep in the basement. Why do we believe him? Maybe she did need to make him sleep in the basement. Maybe he was a threat to his sisters. I don't know. But the point is, we just tend to believe people's stories. The narcissist makes up stories and we tend to believe it. Other people believe it. But we need to invalidate those stories. We need to say, wait a minute. This guy's telling the story. Are you sure that's true? Because people, once again, faith comes by hearing. We tend to believe what we hear. Number four is no interaction. Now, this is kind of like number one, but no interaction. Every interaction that you have with a narcissist is his or her opportunity to exploit you. That is to say, the words that you speak, the words that you write, even the expressions on your face. I guarantee you, what this person is doing, true blue narcissist, what they're doing when you're talking to them, and you're sharing with them private things, personal things about your life or opinions of other people, they're taking note. They're creating a database in their minds, an inventory of all those things you said, and when it's time to discard you, or maybe even before then, they're going to these people and they are embellishing what you said about them to make it sound like you're gossiping and trash talking behind their back. How do you stop that? Well, you don't interact with them. You got nothing to say to them. Nothing. I mean, nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Number five is this. You probably already know this, but if not, I'll tell you. And if you do, we'll remind you, and that is don't fight with these people. Arguing with, and I'm not talking about physical fighting, but yeah, that would be included. But arguing with a narcissist does absolutely nothing other than maybe make you blow off steam and feel good for the moment when you're in my narcissist's face and you're telling him or her off. Makes you feel good, but you know what? You may not have realized it, but you are feeding the narcissist ego because he or she tricked you into getting into an argument. That's called baiting, by the way. Lured you in. They're just they're pleased as punch because they're controlling you. They're pulling your string and you don't even know it. Number 6 is see them for what they are, and that is children in adult bodies. Now stop and think about this. When a child is a preschooler, a little toddler, they have a couple words they learn to say right off the bat. One of them is they learn to say no because they hear it all the time. And the other word they learn to say is mine because everything belongs to them. Everything. They see something, and by virtue of the fact that they see it, it belongs to them. If it exists, it belongs to them. That's my mom. That's my dad. Okay, we're okay with that. Those are my toys. Okay, we're okay with that. Whatever it is that happens to be sitting on the table at the moment, that belongs to them. Everything they see in the house belongs to them. Everything in the backyard belongs to them. If some other kid is playing with something, that belongs to them. It's mine. That's narcissistic thinking. The difference is the narcissist is no longer in a toddler's body. That's pretty much it. Everything the narcissist says, everything is mine. So see them what they are. These are just little kids. Number 7 is put them on the defensive. And what we mean by that is if you must engage with a narcissist, what you need to do is you need to consider asking them directly about their childish, selfish behavior. And if you do this in public, what you are doing is you are pulling down the mask that is hiding the narcissist immaturity. Number 8, disengage. This is kind of like number 1. But narcissists will prod you through use of smear campaigns. And what you tend to want to do is you want to fight back. You want to create your own smear campaign. Now, there's nothing wrong with exposing the truth. But what you don't want to do is get in this tit for tat, which is common among everybody. I mean, every animal you can think of, and I've seen scientific research on this, when they would observe groups of animals, it's all tit for tat within that group of animals. Same kind of animals, monkeys or whatever they are. If one monkey offends the other monkey, hurts the other monkey, the offended monkey will fight back. That's just nature. That's natural. That's what nature has programmed our minds to do, how we respond, how we react. But what we find is when we do that with a narcissist, what happens is they begin to antagonize you even more because this is a fight. Their ego is at stake, and they're going to protect that. Their mask is starting to slip, and you're pulling it off. They're going to defend that with every ounce of energy in their body. Now, you already know this, but they recruit armies of flying monkeys. These are agents. These are narcissist, proxy narcissists, doing their job for them. They go out, they trash talk you, and these people believe them, and then they start to trash talk you, and they will hate on you. Flying monkeys will hate on you. Well, I'm going to get them back. I'm going to do the same thing to them. And you know what? You are providing the narcissist with supply. So the way to turn the tables on the narcissist is not tit for tat. Okay, you do it to me, I'm going to do it to you. I'm going to turn the tables on you. No, you're not. That's not how you turn the tables on them. The way you turn the tables on the narcissist, when they discard you and they send that army of flying monkeys to destroy you through viral slander and gossip smear campaign, you got to find the strength to not do it back to them. I'm not saying you don't tell the truth so the truth gets out there, but you don't go on a smear campaign because then you're just mirroring the narcissist. The word whatever is the first of three words that we have for you that narcissists absolutely positively hate. Now, this is kind of a soft word. The third word that we have for you is much different, much more forceful. It just cuts to the heart. The second word that we have for you is kind of neutral, somewhere in the middle, but nonetheless, narcissists hate these three words. Why is that? Well, when you say whatever to a narcissist, what you are doing is you are being dismissive. And if there's one thing a narcissist hates, he hates being, or she hates being dismissed. These people are, in their mind, the center of everything. I mean, the whole world revolves around them. They think, maybe not literally, but they seem to think that when they go to sleep at night, the world just kind of disappears. And when they wake up, the world wakes up with them, and they are ready to be worshipped. And geez, if you don't fall down at their feet when they expect you to, again, not literally, but figuratively, they are often quite offended. So you can't say whatever to a narcissist. You don't say whatever to the king or queen of the country. That is just not done. It is disrespectful, but what's more, it diminishes their authority. It diminishes their importance. And you got to keep in mind, what a narcissist is all about is a narcissist is all about satisfying his or her ego. That's it. They have this addiction to being superior, to being supreme, and you're saying, no, you can't have that anymore. I mean, what's a person going to do when they seem like they just have this hunger, this drive for admiration, for being on top, for being the controller, for being the person who is savvy, who does the work behind the scenes that gets things done and never gets quite as much appreciation as he or she thinks they should. And you're taking that away. Say, whatever. So the narcissist may make some kind of a declaration or observation, and you say, whatever, no big deal. Who cares what you think? I mean, you're saying, I couldn't care less. You're saying, yeah, I don't know that you're that big shot that you think you are. Drives them crazy. I mean, just drives them nuts. Number two, the second word is the word why. Why is that? So you don't question a narcissist because they're so perfect, there's nothing to question. And when you use the word why, when you ask them why, they say, for example, we need to do the work this way, or we need to go out to eat at this restaurant, even if you want to go to the other restaurant. We need to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and you say, why? What you're doing when you say why is you're tugging on that person's mask. You're saying, I'm not sure that you are really the person that you seem to think that you are. They don't like that. I mean, it just drives them, just like saying whatever, it just drives them crazy. So the next time you are around a narcissist or just somebody that has narcissistic characteristics, somebody who is domineering, and they start ordering you or maybe others around, or they make some declaration about whatever, ask them why. Now, here's another reason they hate this word so intensely. They hate it because they have to explain themselves. When you ask a question, why? Oh, I got to tell this guy why. I mean, what are they going to do? They probably will ignore the question because they don't have an answer, and that bothers them. And if they actually answer to you why it is that we have to do the job this way, or why it is that we have to go to this restaurant, not that one, when they have to explain what they're doing, they're on the spot. It's like they have to come up with something really, really quick to explain themselves, and usually when they do, it's something stupid. They can't say, well, because that's where I want to go eat, and I'm the king. They're not going to say that. That's what they think, but they can't say that. Their mask will come off. So you're tugging at their mask. They can't say, well, we need to do the job this way because I want to be the person in charge. It may not be the best way to do it, but it doesn't matter. What matters is I want to be the highest person on the totem pole, so to speak. They can't say that. They have to quickly make up some ridiculous excuse for why they want to do it that way, or they just get frustrated and say nothing at all. The third word that really cuts to the heart of the narcissist is the word no. To say no. Narcissist says, using our two examples, the narcissist says, we need to do it this way, and your response is, nope, not going to do it that way. I mean, how dare you? How dare you? Anytime someone says, how dare you, that's not an answer, that's not an argument, that's not an explanation, that's just superficial. That's a cover for, I don't know what I'm talking about. Or the other example we used is the narcissist will say, well, let's say you want to go to McDonald's, and the narcissist wants to go to, let's say Texas Roadhouse. I'm assuming you know what that is. And you say, why? Well, he's got to come up with a reason, or she's got to come up with a reason. But what if you say, no, I want to go to McDonald's. You go to Texas Roadhouse by yourself. I'm going this way. Now, the narcissist usually is a controller, and if you're in a group, usually the group will go with the narcissist. But you say no. It still drives them crazy. Absolutely, positively crazy. Okay, let's say the narcissist wants to go to McDonald's. And you say, I want to go to Texas Roadhouse. No. I don't want to do it that way. Whatever it is that you want to do, I'm putting down my foot and I'm saying no because you are not supreme. Now, you're not just tugging at the narcissist's mask. You know what you're doing? You are flat ripping that mask off. You are saying you are not superior. You are not the king of the universe. You are not the queen of the universe. You're not all that special. In fact, I'm not even going to listen to your advice, period. I think you're just totally out of touch. So, no. You know, it's kind of amazing how one word can convey meaning beyond the simple word. You got to hear a two-letter word, and it says so much to the narcissist. It says, I totally dismiss you. It says you are not important. It says you are not the person you think you are. It's saying, you know what, if you say no, you're saying not only are you no better than me, but, you know, maybe my idea is better. In fact, come to think of it, is. I want to go to McDonald's. You want to go to what do we say, Texas Roadhouse, and you don't know as much as I do. You can't say that to a narcissist and get away with it, but you can say it, and he or she will be very bothered by it, but that's okay. Sometimes the narcissist just needs to have their mask ripped off their face. And other times, maybe it's not appropriate to say that. Maybe you need to give them a little rope to hang themselves with. But if you ever want to use a word that you know will absolutely drive a narcissist crazy, you can use the word whatever. You can ask the question why, or you can just flat out say no. The problem is you have no idea who is and who is not a narcissist. Now you say, Ken, look, this guy is my good friend. I've known him for months, maybe years. I can trust him imminently. There's nothing that I can't say to this person that I have a problem with, because he'll keep it close and he won't talk about it. I hate to break this to you, but some of the people in my life that I thought were my absolutely positively best, most trusted friends turned out to be actors. I'm nearly 70 years old. And over the decades, I've learned a thing or two, and I want to share with you some of those things that I've learned. And one of the things I've learned is don't just assume that everybody's not a narcissist because you've known them a very long time. They can surprise you. Here's number one: criticism of other people. Why do you not want to talk about that? Obviously, I think, at least it is to me, that when you're talking to a narcissist, and it's a covert narcissist, this is the undercover guy who puts on the act, puts on the show, you don't know he's a narcissist, he's coming across as your best friend in the whole world. But one thing about that narcissist that is true of virtually every person who has narcissism is their brain is a biological database. And all the stuff that you tell them, they're keeping it. Now, when the smear campaign begins, and it begins before you know it, it usually begins before the discard, the final discard. But when you give this person information, it's now in their database, and they start talking to other people about what you said about them, and the other people know. They know that you've been talking about them because they remember telling you or being with you or whatever. That is the source of this information that the narcissist is now telling them. Are you following what I'm saying? So they know it's true. Well, the problem is the narcissist loves to embellish the story. They will make it sound like you were being harshly critical, even gossiping about these people, tearing them down behind their back, like you are the narcissist. And you didn't mean it that way. I mean, that's not the way you intended to come across, and you probably didn't come across that way, but the narcissist, they're just deceptive. They are deceivers. So the thing best said is don't talk about people behind their back. Don't talk about them in front of them. Now, I used to have this attitude that I thought it was okay to gossip about people as long as you said something good, as long as you said something positive and uplifting. But I discovered something. What I discovered was that if you're talking to a narcissist, that person will take even the most kind, considerate things you say about somebody else, and they will embellish them, they will change them, they will make it sound like you were criticizing that person harshly. Number two is not only do you not criticize other people, but you don't talk about your experiences with anybody, because that body could potentially be a narcissist. Be careful about your past experiences. Okay, there are some things I guess we can talk about that are so benign and so mundane that it's really not a serious problem, but are you sure you want to talk about it, past experiences? You know, the problems you had at that previous job, or maybe it was a difficulty that you're having with your neighbor, or maybe, maybe it's not a negative thing, maybe it's a positive thing. So you're talking to the narcissist about something positive that happened to your other job. What does the narcissist do with that information? He files it away. This person worked over at this place. Now he knows that. And what the narcissist will do frequently is if they run into somebody who works at that place that you used to work, this is just one example of many, but he'll start getting more, or she will start getting more information about you. Okay, you have this great neighbor, you just love these people, and you're gossiping very positive about them, how great they are. And the narcissist takes note of that, and he may encounter your neighbor, sometimes on purpose. And he will say, guess what? This dear friend of mine was talking about you behind your back, and he said blah, 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 but he won't say what you said verbatim. He will embellish it, he will change it, and now that dear friend that you thought was a neighbor, good neighbor, suddenly they're not so nice to you anymore, and you don't know why. What did you do? What could you possibly have done to offend them? Well, what you did was you were gossiping, positive gossip, complimentary gossip, good gossip. But the narcissist took that and he or she used it against you. Number three, a thing you don't want to talk to a narcissist about, which is potentially anybody, don't mention your weaknesses. I guess this should be very obvious. I mean, I like to come across as being humble, don't we all? We're just really proud of how humble we are. Typical human problem. But sometimes we will, mention our weaknesses, and the narcissist will pick up on that. So you're really not good at doing this, or you have a fear or phobia of this. I'm telling you, that biological database that is the brain of the narcissist, they are filing that away, and they can and will find a way to use that against you. Number 4 is future plans. You know what narcissists love to do? They love to trip people. You remember when you were a kid on the playground, elementary school, and there was this bully who thought it was funny to trip people, push them over, passing the ball. He will pass the ball so that you can't catch it on purpose, just tripping you up. Now, if you're talking to a narcissist unawares, and again, I don't mean to make you paranoid, but you just got to be careful. I'm not saying these people are space aliens, but you don't know if they're a narcissist or not. So just be careful when you talk about your future plans, because narcissists love to try to trip you up because it makes them feel smarter. All right, so you got future plans, you're going to go into this business, and the next thing you know, those people that you are relying on to make that future plan happen are mad at you for some odd reason. You don't know why. You don't know that this dear friend of yours, narcissist, you don't know he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist, has gone to these people and part of their smear campaign, they convince them that you're not somebody that they want to do business with. That's just about anything. All right, you got plans of marrying somebody. You mentioned that to your dear friend who really is a covert narcissist and you don't know it. Next thing you know, this person that you plan to marry is mad at you. Got no idea why. And again, smear campaign. The narcissist, covert narcissist, got to this person and told them all the bad things about you. So don't talk about your future plans. Number 5 is kind of the opposite. Don't talk about your accomplishments in the past, because the narcissist will pick up on those things that you have accomplished, and that they hate that. They don't want to think that anybody has had a successful past except for them, or certainly not as good as them. I mean, these people, I know some narcissists, covert narcissists who are, I mean, they're flat out homeless. They have nothing and nobody, but they still think they're the greatest thing on the earth. And it really bothers them that you have anything like a new car, or if you have a decent home, or you have a stable family life. They absolutely positively hate that, and they will take those accomplishments. And you're talking about, what you had for dinner last night. That's, to the narcissist, that's an accomplishment. You've accomplished a stable family life. And you're talking to a narcissist about that, and next thing you know, the smear campaign. How you trash talk your family. Okay, just don't talk about it, and you don't have to worry about those things. A little extreme, maybe, but you still got to be guarded. You still got to be careful, hold those things close. Well, what about relationships? If you talk to a narcissist about your dear friends, now your narcissist is storing that information away in his biological database, which is his or her brain. He knows who your friends are. And when the smear campaign begins, guess who he's going to first? He wants to isolate you from all your friends. Now, you've been talking about your relationships, and usually the narcissist will hear something that is very negative. You may not say anything negative, but that's the way he interprets it, and that's the way he will explain it when he goes to these people to stab you in the back. So just be quiet about your relationships, about your love life. Don't talk about that anyhow. I mean, to anybody for any reason. That's none of anybody's business except for you and your love interest. Yeah, I know you like to brag about it. Why? That's disgusting. Don't talk about that stuff. Family issues, that's between you and your family, maybe a therapist. But even, be careful even talking to a clergyman about that, because sometimes clergymen aren't what they're dressed up to be. Got to be real careful. Family issues, why would you want to talk to anybody about that? You need a shoulder to cry on. I got to tell you this, because this is so important. I know people who got divorced. Guy got divorced. I said, why did you divorce your wife? And his response was, well, I didn't. Yes, you did. I mean, you went to divorce court. You got a divorce. He said, no, actually, I was divorcing my mother-in-law. To get rid of my mother-in-law, I had to divorce my wife and went through all that problem. Why would anybody want to talk to a narcissist about your difficulty with your family? Because you know the narcissist is going to take this and, again, embellish it, spread it all over the place. Now, this one should be kind of obvious. Number 7 is do not talk about your finances to anybody. All right, maybe your wife, maybe your accountant. Whether you like it or not, some things you got to tell to the IRS, to tax collection agencies. But what I do at the end of every year, I take our finances, family finances, and give it to my wife so she knows everything that came in, everything that went out, where it came from, and where it went to. I have a spreadsheet because I'm a good Aspie. I love spreadsheets, and I keep track of all of our family expenses and income. And at the end of the year, one person gets that. One person in the world. That's my wife. An iteration of that goes to our accountant, but not with the detail. Nobody else needs to know any of that. They don't need to know your financial hardships. They don't know if you have a windfall. They don't need to know how much money you make at the workplace. They don't need to know any of that because a narcissist will pick up on that and use it against you. Absolute, positive, almost guarantee that's going to happen. So just don't talk about it. And there's really no reason to talk about finances. And again, I guess that's kind of obvious. Okay. Number 8 is never talk about the kind things that you did to other people or for other people, because it comes across as aloofness and the narcissist will say you're boasting. Now, come to think of it, when you give somebody something and then you brag about it, and you don't mean to be bragging about it, do you? You're just kind of talking and just happen to mention that you left a $100 tip to the waitress. Is that a gift? I mean, if you give a waitress a $100 tip and then you get praise and adoration for doing it from other people, that's not a gift, that's an exchange. What you did is you just bought praise and adoration for $100. I don't think that's a good deal. So you come across as kind of aloof. Keep that stuff to yourself. You do something kind to somebody, don't brag about it. By the way, here's something that you may want to do. A little bit off topic, but if there is somebody who has been kind to you or somebody that you appreciate, send them a note telling them how much you appreciate them. Now here's the kicker. Don't sign it. Send it anonymously. Nobody knows who sent that note. I mean, as long as it's legal to do that, why not? And this person gets that thing, gets that note, that some anonymous person is thanking them for keeping their lawn looking nice. Or you send a note to the manager of the store telling them how kind and courtesy this employee was, but you didn't sign it. Do you know what that does to the person? I mean, it just does something magical to them. It just uplifts them. Now, this is kind of off topic, but the point is you don't need to brag about, and you may not even think you're bragging, but you don't need to rather brag about all those kind things you did to other people. Number 9, this, again, probably should be obvious, and I think there are some obvious exceptions to this, but don't talk about your medical conditions to a narcissist, because he or she, again, will exploit that to your disadvantage. Now, yeah, there are exceptions. Obviously, you got to talk to your physician, to healthcare providers, got to talk to them about your medical conditions, to your close family. They deserve to know what's going on in your life in most cases, unless you have an extremely strained relationship. Why would you not tell them? When you get older, like I'm pushing 70, like I said earlier, I've learned a thing or two. I like to share things that I've learned with other people about narcissism, but sometimes us old guys get together for lunch. And guess what we talk about besides politics? We talk about our kidneys. We talk about our heart surgery. And we talk about things, just between us. I don't know that's necessarily a bad thing, but are you sure that person sitting across from you is really your good friend? Or is that a narcissist who's undercover? Is that a person who is very trustworthy, but he knows somebody who is a narcissist and he just happens to mention in passing that you have this physical problem? Now, if you have a mental health issue, nothing to be ashamed of, but keep in mind that narcissists will really exploit that to your disadvantage. Number 10 is this. Speaking of mental health issues, if you ever go to therapy, at the end of your therapy sessions, typically what will happen is the therapist will give you a written report, details of what they encountered and discovered. That is between you and you alone, maybe your spouse, maybe one other family member. Now, telling them you went to a therapist if you have a mental condition, I don't know necessarily that it's a bad thing that some other people know about that. It depends on what it is, but that will nearly always, it's sad to say this, but that will nearly always be used against you. So just shut up about it with few exceptions. Do you see those rectangles on the screen? If you would like this conversation to continue, all you got to do is click on one of those rectangles and we'll just keep on going. But on the other hand, if you're done, well, thanks for stopping by and we will see you next time.